Hi guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on these Cyrus soundbuds. Now these true wireless Bluetooth earphones can be found between 60 and 80 pounds. Given the lower price tag category, I'm going to review these at the £60 price. Now the earphones, in the terms of their package, come with a carrying case, some extra silicone tips with some ear hooks, a micro USB to USB cable with a flat line shape, and a nice little carrying pouch, which is actually quite rare to see with true wireless earbuds. So props to Cyrus actually including this. You can't stress it enough that not many manufacturers include them. Now in terms of the earphones themselves, you'll find them, well, propped inside their case at the moment, and you can see the design of the earphones is kind of like a bullet type of look. It doesn't look like some other earphones out there, while they also do share the same similar design to some of its competitors. Now first of all, you'll be able to notice straight away that the earphones don't automatically turn on from their case, and I must say that's one of their biggest flaws, is the fact they don't automatically switch on. To give you an idea, if I were to open the Libertone Track Air Plus, or let's say if I get the Creative Outlier Air, as soon as I get them out of the case, they are already on, and if I've got my Bluetooth on my phone, they will automatically pair. So this is not the case. As you can see, they just paired. As you can see, this is not the case when it comes with the Cyrus soundbuds, which I would say is one of its major flaws, because each time you have to take them out of the case, you have to press them on. Now in terms of pressing them on, there is a physical button. Now the physical button is actually pretty, not say hard to press, but it's quite loud. Specifically when you have them in your ear, that noise of the button that it makes is actually pretty annoying, and kind of resonates throughout your eardrums, and can, well, make it feel uncomfortable, specifically because you are pushing down on your eardrum when these earphones are already in your ear, unless you do what I did, for example, take them out of the case, turn them on, and then pop them in your ear. Now the button itself is a physical button. If I just go quiet, you guys will be able to hear it. Now the buttons themselves don't particularly make that much noise out in the real world, but when they're in your ear, that noise is extremely loud, and the button press, that plasticky sound, is not something you want to hear. So unfortunately, when it comes to design and the way that Cyrus has actually designed the true wireless earbuds, from the case to the actual earbuds themselves, is pretty poor given its competitors. Now I know the Track Air Plus are a lot more expensive, but the Creative Outlier Air are pretty much more in line into the price category. They're around £75, whilst these are, as I said, about £60 to £80. Now before I move on to the earphones and the sound quality and everything like that, I also want to mention the case. I do like the case, that the fact that it's quite small. As you can see, the Libertone Track Air Plus, in comparison, it's very nice to see that it's quite small, and you can see the Creative Outlier Air is a lot bigger, and even then the Creative Outlier Air is not one of the biggest cases out there. If you look at, let's say, the Apple Powerbeats Pro, this little case is quite nice and nifty, and it's also small enough so you can pop it in its pouch or pop it in your pocket without any problems. I don't like, however, the fact that there's no wireless charging, and there's also a micro USB port to charge. Given that we're in the modern age, I would have expected a USB Type-C port to be included instead of a micro USB port, and more so that means that it doesn't have any fast charging capabilities, which does hinder it, because it will take around 2 hours or so to charge to full. So with the case out the way, and actually in terms of what you get in the package, what about the earphones themselves? Now the earphones themselves, as you can see, it's got the bullet type of look, as I mentioned before, and this is great because if you compare it to something like the Creative Outlier Air, the earphones themselves are a lot smaller. Now the smaller design means that they do fit more snugly, and given the fact that you've got this little ear fin, they do sit really well. Now Cyrus Audio have put audiophile sport earbuds. I'm not sure about the first bit, and I'll get into that in just a bit, but the sports part of it, I must say, when I was cycling with these earphones or running with them, I had no issues whatsoever wearing them with the medium-sized tips and the ear tips. And as I said, due to their small design, they don't fall out. Also, it's worth bearing in mind that there's not much wind noise that these attract. However, they don't sit as flush, for example, in comparison to something like the Track Air Plus, which only have this type of thing revealing on the outside, whilst these, as you can see, will stick out just a little bit more. Again, not as much as the Creative Outlier Air, but anyway, worth bearing in mind. You can see sort of a comparison in terms of the size. In terms of comfort wise, as I mentioned, pretty small, and in terms of the sound isolation, they've got no active noise cancellation unlike the Track Air Plus, but given the price tag, it's to be expected. It is worth bearing in mind that the passive noise isolation, in other words, how much noise they block from the outside world from the ear tips alone, it is pretty good, and specifically because they've got a very small design, they fit really snugly in your ear canal. So worth bearing that all in mind. So before we move on to sound quality, it's worth bearing in mind these connect over Bluetooth, and yes, unfortunately that blue light does stay illuminated the whole way through if you are paired. So currently I'm paired to my Galaxy S10 Plus, and that doesn't get disabled, which is quite annoying to say the least. And also, if you were to pop them back in the case, they don't automatically switch off. You sometimes have to switch them off manually, which I find a bit of a pain and a bit silly, to be honest with you. Again, given the fact they're true wireless earbuds, you'd expect them to be kind of seamlessly turning on and turning off when you pop them in or out the case. In terms of the Bluetooth, I am very disappointed to say that these only have the SBC codec. Now, the SBC codec is the lowest quality Bluetooth that you can get, unlike the name which says audiophile over here, I would have expected AAC for iPhones, aptX for Androids, maybe even aptX HD or LDAC codec. These two earphones you can see have got AAC and or aptX and SBC as well. These only have SBC codec, so not really staying true to the audiophile branding, and I should also say that is somewhat translates to the audio quality. Now, the audio quality is by far an audiophile experience. The two other earphones you can see in front of you provide a better overall audio experience, but that's not to say the Cyrus soundbuds are bad. It's just that I wouldn't consider them an audiophile earphone. I would consider them a nice budget set of earphones for £60, which do a decent job throughout the sound frequency. Now, in this respect, the sub-bass extension doesn't extend as much as the Creative Outlier Air. They don't have much of a rumble in the lower tones. The mid-bass, however, is very tight and controlled. It's not the same that could be said about the Creative Outlier, which sound a little bit wobbly at times in the mid-bass frequencies. These have got a nice, tight and pronounced mid-bass slam. However, they've got a very recessed lower mid-range, which does come through when you're listening to certain music, or let's say if you're listening to certain vocals, in comparison to the Liberator and Track Air Plus. And again, these are more than double the price. These sound far better in terms of their mid-range. Vocals come out a lot better, and instruments as well. And in comparison to the Outlier Air, again, they just don't sound as open and as forward sounding. On the plus side, the upper mids are decent, and the highs as well extend very well, so the high-end tones extend pretty well. And I also should say that if depending on the sensitivity of your ears, you might find them a tad sibilant. In other words, there's that type of sound in your ears versus other earphones you might find out there, again, like the two that we've got in front of us. Now, moving on to the Soundstage, I must say I'm very, very impressed by the overall instrument separation. In other words, where sounds are coming from, let's say left and right, it's really, really well done with the Cyrus soundbuds. I would say they're somewhat equivalent to the Track Air Plus, and better than the Creative Outlier Air. However, that's not the whole picture, because a Soundstage also involves the width and the depth of sound, and here they got completely trumped by the Creative Outlier Air, which provide a much wider and engaging sound. Instead, if you think of my hands over here as the overall Soundstage, the Creative Outlier Air do a decent job in terms of separating, let's say from here to here, in terms of sound, whilst the Cyrus soundbuds are very much more close sounding, but then separate perfectly throughout the whole sort of circle, if that makes sense. So overall, the Soundstage isn't the best, but the instrument separation is fantastic. So overall, what do I make of the sound quality? Well, they're by far not audiophile earphones. However, if you're looking for earphones at around £60, then I think you'll struggle to find a better set. Now, of course, they're not the best built pair. They don't look exactly premium. They have a case which is somewhat questionable, and they have a design implementation of the buttons which is again questionable. However, if you can get over that fact that if you switch them on and off each time you pop them in or out of your case, then I think you'll you'll find that you've got a decent set of earphones. Again, you are limited to the SBC codec. You have a relatively small charge time, which I actually forgot to mention. In terms of the overall battery life, it's around 3 hours per charge, and the case provides an additional 3 to 4 charges, which gives you an overall total of 12 hours of playback time, whilst these, for example, give you 30 hours, 10 hours per charge. So that's another sort of flaw. But if you get over those, then for 60 quid, then it's pretty good. Personally, I would say that if you're going to be spending £60, spend £15 more and get the Creative Outlier Air instead. They're just a far better option and by far the best earphones, true wireless earphones under £100. So hopefully you've enjoyed this honest, unbiased, unpaid review. If you have, make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, favorite and share and all that good stuff, and let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed, take care and bye bye.